Hello everyone and welcome to the video. If you saw one of the last videos I did, you'll know I mentioned an absolute ton of builds and combos that you can use for creating structures at mid-level in D&D. Now, one of those combos really struck a chord with me, and this is the part of the video where I talked about the Cave Badger. With the Cave Badger, you have a burrowing speed and create these hollow tunnels that can be used as pathways after you tunnel through them, and this is accomplished using your Tunneler ability. And much like my late grandfather's eternal war with the groundhogs that lived under his house and sunk into part of the kitchen floor, the more and deeper a creature digs, the more structural damage it often creates. So that's what this build is all about. We're going to see just how far we can take the Cave Badger's burrowing capabilities. So throughout the video, I'm going to be covering different points and progressions where you can take this build, the Cave Badger build. Low level is really the only time where you need to be concerned about building this character any differently than in comparison to mid-game and late game, and I just wanted to clarify that first. So now, if we're looking for a super niche, nice, low-level build, we'll either need to go Simic Scientist for our background or be a Mark of Passage Human. This will give us access to the spell Expeditious Retreat. This spell lasts for 10 minutes and allows us to dash as a bonus action on our turns, and this is very important for this part of the build. Then we'll take 2 levels of Druid. For this build, the subclass we get doesn't really have too much of an impact, but personally here I would recommend taking Land Druid. Their natural recovery feature will help us get spell slots back that we can use for later. Now here's where the build starts. Cast Longstrider on yourself. This gives you an extra 10 feet per turn, and this lasts for an hour without concentration. Then cast Expeditious Retreat on yourself. This lasts for 10 minutes with concentration and allows you to dash as a bonus action on your turn for the duration. Now, Wildshape yourself into a Cave Badger. The 2 spells you just cast on yourself are still in effect. So now you're a Cave Badger with a burrow speed of 25 feet in a turn and can bonus action dash for 1/6 of the time that you're Wildshaped for. With this combo, just dash in like a very fun game from my youth, double dash as much as you can. Dash is an action and then dash again as a bonus action for as long as the spells are in effect. So looking at this math, there are 600 rounds in an hour in D&D. And for 1/6 of those rounds, we can double burrow dash on our turns. So 100 times 100, 25 feet of movement using an action to dash, and then a bonus action to dash for 100 rounds, plus 50 times 500, 25 feet of movement dashing as an action because Expeditious Retreat wore off, and the other remaining 500 rounds. Totaling this all out to 35,000 feet in 1 hour. Dividing this into miles for us Americans out there, and in meters for everyone else, that 35,000 feet translates to 6.63 miles, or 10.7 kilometers. And this is a combination that you have access to at second level. You can basically level keeps and strongholds and have them sink into the ground. This is a little mini combo that would work well for low-level one-shots in campaigns that aren't aiming to go too high. And if this is as far as you want to go with this concept, just max out your wisdom, build yourself a druid, and you're done. But of course, there's so much more we can do to break this combo if you'll let me show you. If we want to push this build into something that can progress through the early game into mid and even hopefully late game, here's what you need to do instead. So you'll still want to go Land Druid. Any particular land will do. We're really only interested in the natural recovery feature. Our race and background for this part of the build really don't matter in contrast to the second level build focus that I just mentioned. I know I mentioned the need for Expeditious Retreat earlier, but thanks to this next point and the progression of the build, a lot of what made Expeditious Retreat so good in the first place won't be needed here anymore. So now, from your 2 levels of Druid and Cave Badger Wildshaping, you'll want to take 2 levels of Rogue. What this gets us access to is the Rogue's Cunning Action feature. Now we can dash as a bonus action on our turn instead of needing a spell slot to cast Expeditious Retreat for only 10 minutes. Now we can double dash for the entire time that we're Wild-shaped. And so now let's take a look at this new math. That's 100 times 600. 25 feet per movement using an action to dash and then a bonus action to dash for 600 rounds. 60,000 feet of burrowing in 1 hour. And now that's 11.4 miles of burrowing. And that's 18.35 kilometers of burrowing. And looking at this build is something that comes online at 4th level. We've almost effectively doubled our burrow speed. And just even being able to burrow 100 feet in a single round already has absurd ramifications. But now, let's continue further. If you want to push this build to its limits, we'll want to go into Monk. So of course, put a majority of your skill points into Dexterity and the remainder into Wisdom. Be mindful that we need to be a Monk, Druid, Rogue multi-class to pull this combo off. And the type of Monk you want doesn't really need to matter too much here. All we're really interested in is our unarmored movement feature. So, like our Rogue's Cunning Action, unarmored movement can also be used while we're in Wild Shape. So let's say that somehow our DM didn't kill off our character after we sunk an entire castle at level 2 and an entire town at level 4, and we actually managed to make it to 20th level. This means that we have a whopping additional 25 feet per round that we can add to our burrowing, and along the way, because by this point you've had the ability to pick up 4 ability score improvements, make one of those ASIs where you pick up the mobile feat. This will give us an additional 10 feet per round, and it even says that moving through difficult terrain doesn't cost us extra movement with it. Perfect for rocky terrain that you'll probably encounter while you're digging. 2 levels of Druid, 2 levels of Rogue, 16 levels of Monk. Now let's crunch all these numbers out. 15 burrow speed as a Cave Badger, extra 10 with Mobile, extra 10 with Longstrider, and 25 extra feet with Unarmored Movement. Together, our new burrow speed is 60 feet in 1 round. So a regular speed of 60 feet, dash turns into 120, dash again turns into another 120, 120, 120, 240, times 600. With this combo, we can burrow and double dash the entire way, and this brings our total burrow speed up to 144,000 feet in 1 hour, which is approximately 27.27 miles and 43.89 kilometers. This gives you the ability to basically dig a marathon track underneath the BBEG's castle. You could use this combo and with your 240 feet of dashing movement, basically sink the entirety of the terrain on the battle map down a couple of feet per round. And that's the entire build. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you get some great fun burrowing. Also, please, for the love of God, be mindful that these builds involve a lot of theory crafting and that they can potentially break a lot of stuff in your DM's campaign. Your DMs work very hard on their games, and while some might find the shenanigans of this build very entertaining, it might grate on them if this is how you try to solve all of your problems that you encounter in every game moving forward. So don't pull stuff like this too often, or else you might really tick them off. But anyways, that's the build. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please like the video and subscribe for even more absolutely ludicrous D&D build content.